Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Tracy Alexander. And coming up in today's newscast, the sun is shining on Israelis looking to avoid COVID-19 restrictions as the government reverses decisions on closures a matter of hours after enforcing them. Who's showing who the money? Israelis ask when and whether they'll receive the promised coronavirus aid funds. We'll bring you those answers. She's used to the cameras, but not for this reason. Model Bar Rafaeli back in court for a final verdict. And the remarkable recovery of an ancient relic apparently stolen 2 decades ago. Don't put your swimsuit away just yet. Israeli beaches and pools will still be a part of the summer weekend fun, and a sigh of relief for the struggling hospitality industry too, as the government continues to strike the COVID-19 restrictions balance. Take a look.
Open, closed, and now open. Open, closed, and now open. Beaches and pools will stay open on weekends as Israel's coronavirus committee backpedals on last week's decision to have them shuttered on weekends to stop the spread of COVID-19. It's been a bit of a yo-yo ride for Israelis this week as the government turns in circles trying to correctly target places to impose COVID-19 restrictions. And a side of whiplash with your morning coffee. As the sun rose Tuesday, the closure of restaurants and cafes hung in the balance as orders were handed down for doors to shut from 5 a.m. But before noon, the doors swinging open once again. The Knesset Coronavirus Committee overturning that decision, allowing restaurants to seat some 20 people indoors and 30 outdoors, back to the same restrictions the Cabinet handed down last Thursday. As for gyms, they've been shut since Friday, but the committee calling for them to continue to operate under strict distancing measures. A vote on the fate of gyms is scheduled for Wednesday. Israel's Deputy Health Minister Yoav Kish pointing to a significant reduction rate in daily infections Monday, but warning not to get too confident that it's the beginning of a trend. The numbers are still climbing, with the death toll at 422 and close to 30,000 active cases. Thankfully, though, nurses are back to work today, ending a strike that began Monday over manpower shortages at Israeli medical centers.
יש המון בצוות הרפואי, המון אנשים שבבידוד. רבותיי, שלחתם אותם למלחמה, אז למה אתם יורים בהם?
An agreement struck with the Finance Ministry, which will see a boost in thousands more staff, mostly temporary nurses, and extra security in sensitive locations. But when it comes to the end-of-year prom, one Jerusalem high school isn't letting a deadly virus get in the way of the fun. More than 100 students from Gymnasia Rahavia violating government guidelines for public gatherings, marking the end of their studies in prom clothes, but many reportedly not with masks. To remind you, this school had been previously shut down after becoming the site of one of the largest virus outbreaks in Israel. The school releasing a statement telling Ynet that students arrived at the school at least 40 minutes apart and were required to wear masks and have their temperatures taken.
So a big question floating around Israel right now is who's getting government aid? As coronavirus closures and restrictions change day by day, citizens are wondering if and when they'll receive that money promised by the Israeli Prime Minister last week when he vowed to cut a cheque for every Israeli adult. Well, after a lot of criticism, the Economic Cabinet has just updated the latest outline. And to understand the full picture, we're joined by Israeli economist and policy advisor from Tel Aviv University, Professor Eran Yashiv. Professor, a pleasure to have you with us. Now, many details and conditions have in fact changed in the grants program. Who now qualifies for the grants?
Good evening. As your segment just showed, that restaurants close and open and close again, beaches close and open and close again. The same will probably happen with grants and other government plans. So everything is with limited reliability. The original plan, which you're showing just now, was in fact for businesses and people. Then there was a second plan for businesses and people. And finally, last week, there was a plan for individuals, for the 9.2 million Israelis, where the plan was for people to get 2,000 shekels per family with one child, 2,500 with two children, 3,000 with three children, etc. Yesterday, they had a meeting of the cabinet, of the economic cabinet of the Israeli government, which comprises something like 6 or 7 ministers. And then they decided that some people will not get this individual support after all. For example, people earning more than 30,000 shekels in the government service, and people like business owners who earn more than 640,000 shekels a year will not get these individual grants. And on the other hand, some relatively poor people will get an additional grant, for example, an additional 750 shekels. For example, people over 67 who are unemployed, people who get income support, people who get other welfare supports.
Right.
But
because
as
the
I said at
criticism
the outset,
was about the fact that the money should go to where it's needed, and people that are earning more than enough really don't need that 750 shekels at the end of the day. But a lot of Israelis are still talking about how the grants are being poorly dispensed. Is there a better mechanism for distribution?
Yes, I think most economists in Israel, especially academic economists, agree that this is a stupid and inefficient move. That is, you are wasting something like 60 billion shekels on something that will not help the rich and will actually not help the poor, because when you divide the 6 billion over 9.2 million people, you get very small sums, the sums that I mentioned earlier. It would have been much more efficient to do targeted aid, both for individuals and firms, and specific plans that actually, for example, make workers and firms meet again, match again, so that people can work again. Okay. This would be much more beneficial than wasting 6 billion shekels.
Professor, where is the initial grant money coming from? And is, in fact, a grant program really what's best for Israel in terms of the long term?
Well, it's not best, not only for the long term, but also for the short term. And this money doesn't come out of the sky. It doesn't fall from the sky. Basically, the whole game is, and that's also true for other countries, of what we call in the academic language, intertemporal substitution. The government gives money now and will take it back later in the form of taxes. Although what you can do, or what you hope to do, is to spread the taking of taxes into the far and distant future. That is, if you give 6 billion shekels today, you don't necessarily have to take them back next year or in 2 years' time as taxes, but you can spread it out over a long time. How long can you spread it over depends on many, many factors in the future, and the ability to now, what the government needs to do now is to issue debt in order to finance these moves.
Well, the most important thing is that the money does in fact reach the hands of those who need it. Professor, thank you for that insight.
Sure.
Let's track you, or else we'll track you. This seems to be the latest message from Israel's intelligence minister, saying the controversial Shin Bet surveillance program will stay in place, tracking COVID-19 carriers until at least 1/3 of Israeli smartphone users download the health ministry's tracking app, Hamagen 2. So what's with the apparent false choice? Well, here with some insights is cyber expert and CEO of Profero, Omri Segev Moyal. Omri, a pleasure to have you with us. Now, you actually took part in testing Hamagen 2, or the Shield 2 app. So how does it actually work? What data does it draw from patients' mobile devices?
So first of all, it doesn't draw any data from patients or mobile device. It's basically getting information from the Ministry of Health, mainly the tracking of the epidemiologic reviews, the epidemiologic investigations. And it only collects on the machine itself, on the mobile device, where have you been. The addition in the second version of Amagen, Amagen 0.20 or 2.2, it's basically the addition of Bluetooth tracking, which anonymizely keeps the identifications of phones you have been next to, anonymize this. So of course, they don't remember, it doesn't know the exact names or who that phone belongs to. And if someone has been add Amagen with it and voluntarily allowed the Ministry of Health to collect the information from Amagen, then it will be able to track down if you've been next to that patient or not.
All right, so will it extract then, this is obviously the concern of many users, whether it will extract confidential or personal data. What measures have you taken to keep it as safe as possible?
So there's been very intensive work from the Ministry of Health, from all the relevant parties to use the most efficient privacy protection. First of all, one of the things that was in place is there is no backend. Basically, the app itself, without voluntary consent, physically doesn't send anything back to the Ministry of Health or anybody else, which is one of the revolutionizing thing about it. The second thing is that there's a deletion of the data if the user wants. So as soon as the app is deleted, nothing else is being kept.
Now, as the name suggests, this is, of course, the Health Ministry's second version of the app. What's new? What makes Amagen 2 more accurate?
So first of all, I think it's about contact tracing everywhere in the world. GSM data has been proven to be not fully affected on its own. There's not like a magic pill right now that says, there you go, this is what you need to use, this is the only solution, it will work everywhere. By the way, we've seen it with the Shin Bet, false positive rates, high false positive rates, and especially when it's not voluntarily. So people have much trouble of saying, hey, I wasn't even there. Well, for example, in Amagen, based on GSM as well, the first version, they were able to say, no, I was not in that supermarket, I was not in that synagogue, for example.
Right.
The addition of Bluetooth also adds the capabilities of tracking if you were inside closed door next to that specific patient. So both of them combined provide much more accuracy than specifically the GSM alone.
So briefly then, before we let you go, why have the authorities not exclusively relied on Amagen until now then?
I'm not a politician. I think it's above technical means.
All right, Omri, thank you so much for that insight.
Cheers, thank you.
Well, you might want to be sitting down for this next one. Visiting Israel isn't going to be possible for foreigners until at least the beginning of September. In a disappointing blow for both the local tourism industry and those wishing to explore the Holy Land, Israel's Airports Authority announcing that the restrictions will be extended due to the coronavirus pandemic and surging infection numbers. Only returning Israeli citizens or those who obtain special permission from the popular Immigration and Border Authority can enter the country, and of course, they'll have to enter self-quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, moving on now, a Palestinian teenager has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Israeli-American Ari Fuld. Now, Ari was killed in 2018 in a stabbing terror attack at the Gush Etzion junction in Judea and Samaria. The Judea military court also ordering 17-year-old Khalil Jabaran to pay an unspecified sum to Fuld's family as compensation. Jabaran stabbed the father of 4 multiple times in the back and neck as he was standing outside a supermarket. After he was stabbed, Fuld pursued and shot his assailant, who was attempting to attack a shop employee, possibly saving her life. He then collapsed and was rushed to hospital but succumbed to his wounds. His wife Miriam with this.
הגיבור שלנו היום זה ארי. ארי באמת למד להגן על ארץ ישראל, על עם ישראל, ברשתות החברתיות, במילואים, פיזית, מילולית, בהסברה. ואנחנו מצפים באמת פה שבית המשפט תגן גם על ארי, כמו שהוא אהב כל כך את ארץ ישראל, תגן עליו. אנחנו מצפים פה למאסר עולם לא פחות, עונש ראוי למעשה כל כך נתעב כזה.
Between fires, explosions, leaks and a pandemic, Iran has its hands full. And reports of the latest incident, one of many being blamed on Israel, coming from Syria.
explosions in several locations in Syria overnight, and once again the finger is pointing at Israel. A Syrian monitoring group saying at least 6 Israeli missiles were fired at Syrian regime forces and pro-Iranian militias near Damascus, injuring 7 troops. The Observatory for Human Rights chief adding that Syrian air defenses did not intercept a single target. This is the first airstrike allegedly launched in Syria since June, when 9 Iran-backed fighters were killed. Meantime, in Iran, the mysterious string of fires, explosions, and other such supposed accidents is continuing. The latest incidents, a massive factory fire in the northern Tabriz, and a transformer explosion at a power station in central Iran's Isfahan. These the latest in a string of at least 15 fires or explosions or leaks at sensitive Iranian sites in less than a month, several being blamed on alleged Israeli and American sabotage. Iran, for its part, launching a campaign to show strength and change the narrative, highlighting recent fires across the United States in an attempt to demonstrate some sort of link, and on Monday executing the former Iranian translator Mahmoud Mousavi Majid, who had been convicted of spying on Iranian forces for the US and Israel. Majid was arrested in October 2018 for allegedly passing on information about the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. He was also accused of helping to locate a top Iranian general who was killed later in a US drone strike.
Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, has thwarted a major terror plot in Judea and Samaria or the West Bank. 10 operatives have been arrested over a plan to attack Israelis and kidnap a soldier in an effort to force the release of terrorists held in Israeli prisons. A cell from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine group was reportedly trained in part by the Syrian army, and the plot backed by Iran and Lebanon's Hezbollah terrorist group. It was reportedly operating under the guise of a civilian welfare organisation. An incredible recovery by Israeli authorities retrieving a rare ancient baptismal font in the West Bank that had been stolen from an archaeological site near Bethlehem some 20 years ago. You can see the pre-dawn recovery operation here, the IDF escorting the basin, which dates back to the 5th century CE during the Byzantine period, which it says has been pilfered by antiquities thieves from the Tel Aviv archaeological site. Palestinian officials are calling the Israeli operation an act of theft. Well, don't steal. That's the lesson Israeli model Bar Rafaeli is learning this week after an Israeli court convicted her on 4 counts of tax offences. The ruling caps a prolonged tax evasion case against her and her family that's damaged the image of a once beloved national icon. The model wearing a matching white mask and blouse as she entered the Tel Aviv courthouse with her parents and a team of lawyers. Rafaeli and her mother both confessing to offences of evading paying income tax, nearing a whopping $10 million. Bar will serve 9 months of community service under the plea bargain agreement, and her mother will be sent to prison for 16 months. The pair will also have to pay a $1.5 million fine. Well, Israelis live in a constant state of stress, just like the rest of the world, but with the added impact of military operations and certainly now a shaky economic situation. The impact of stress on the body is enormous, leading to some of the most common killers like cancer and cardiovascular disease, because an intricate dance goes on between our immune and neurological systems. But thankfully, there is no shortage of access to simple solutions that can be practiced at home and at retreat-style hangouts around the country. And to tell us more, I'm joined by yoga teacher and wellness coach Maya Kramer. Maya, great to have you with us. Namaste, as always, to you. So talk us through what ways Israelis are adopting to combat their stress, like things like mindfulness and meditation, which we're hearing these buzzwords all the time.
Yes, so it's common, in the US and around the world, but it also is common here in Israel. As you said, there is a big need for this kind of work. So yes, there are many, many places around Israel. One company is called Tovana, which is the Israel Insight Meditation Society. And what they do is offer different retreats and activities, including Vipassana. I don't know if you've ever done Vipassana.
I haven't, but I've heard all about it. You cannot speak, right?
You cannot speak. It's very challenging, but what it causes is for you to go inside in the self and quiet the noise, which is really what meditation does, right? Stress causes an effect on our physical and emotional bodies. We have that noise in our head, right? It starts from there. What meditation does, or just doing Vipassana or yoga, it kind of quiets that down so that it stresses, watching TV, watching the news all day and seeing what's going on around you can cause stress to the body. When you learn to quiet that noise, then it has the effect on the physical and emotional self. Another form is Vijnana Yoga, which is an Israeli form of yoga.
Right.
Really
I actually discovered that when I came to Israel and I saw Vijnana on the yoga schedule. I was like, I think, is that a spelling mistake? Tell us about that.
It sounds like Vipassana or Vinyasa.
Vinyasa, right.
Right. So this kind of yoga doesn't put so much effect on the physical, it doesn't put the light on the physical part of the yoga, but actually, before each pose, they actually envision it before doing it. So it's using mindfulness, using the mind to envision something. So it's kind of like setting intention, manifestation.
I actually did a class and I saw there was a lot more breathing, which I know is also really beneficial for stress release, and a lot of sitting, as you say, meditating. And I understand that engaging in these practices like mindfulness and meditation don't only impact the stress in your body, but also helps you manage your emotions and your behavior. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about eating, food, right? So I call it mindfulness eating. Of course, when you're doing work on yourself, you're going to be eating better anyway, because you're going to be putting good things inside your vessel, inside your body. But also mindfulness eating. It's like saying a prayer before you eat something, right? It's being grateful for the food that you're putting in your mouth. If you're going to be stress eating, it's going to create blockages within your body.
Right.
If you're feeling stress-free, it's going to flow through.
Sure.
So it's not so much what you're eating, it's more how you're eating it.
And recognizing, I suppose, as well, the process, the gratitude when people do blessings and have that consciousness before they're about to eat their food, the process that it's taken to get your food to your plate as well. I understand that gratitude also has some physiological effect on your body.
Completely. And, also all these diets cause stress. If you're going to be counting your calories, it's causing stress, which is causing blockages within your body through the food that you're eating. So it doesn't matter what you're eating, it's causing stress, and then it's blocking.
You're helping people as well. You're taking people to beautiful natural places around the country. Talk us through what you're doing.
Yeah, so I am a yoga teacher, but in my retreats, I call them wellness retreats. And it's not so much about just practicing yoga and meditation. It's all around. It's the food we're eating. I have a chef, Udi Barkan, who comes with me on all my retreats, and he does healthy, happy food, we call it. And it's very colorful. And it's just people are really happy eating it. And we wake up and we do a meditation in the Dead Sea and watch the sunrise. So also, visually what's around you. And I'm discovering different parts of Israel that are so beautiful too, and we go to waterfalls, and we even have wine on Friday night.
Right.
So it's not so much about being so strict. It's actually letting go and enjoying, because I think right now people are so stressed out that they need to bring in more joy and lightfulness into their being.
Well, I don't know if this will be scientifically proven, but my partner has a theory that if you're happy while you're eating it, it's healthy.
Yeah, I agree with him. I love birthday cakes, and I eat them all the time, and
well, there you go.
It makes me happy.
But everything in moderation, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right, Maya, thank you for that insight.
Thanks.
Israel once again bringing its innovation offshore. Jerusalem-based Mobileye is set to test its self-driving vehicles in regular traffic in Germany. It comes after receiving an automated vehicle testing permit, which will allow Mobileye to perform AV testing not only in urban and rural areas, but also on the Autobahn, which also allows driving speeds of up to 130 kilometres or 80 miles per hour. Mobileye is also set to roll out its robo-taxi shuttle fleet this year in Paris and Tel Aviv and begin tests on them in Japan and Taiwan next year. Now, it's a fully self-driving, ride-hailing and ride-sharing mobility service, and Mobileye plans to launch it in 2023. All right, well, let's now take a look at the weather forecast. The low won't be that low down south tonight. Eilat dropping to 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius and soaring as high as 106 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. That's 41 degrees Celsius. What a scorcher. And now before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. I have to say, I did see that coming only because I have no doubt that Nittany Manson picked this for our tubing today, and we know that she loves a tubing with dogs in it. Very well done. All right, well, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.43 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Tracy Alexander, and thank you so much for watching.